These places look normal until they kill you. Well, that's just like a Mr. Ballen video title anyway, isn't it? I take it this is going to be a top 3 places you shouldn't go, but people went anyway. That's what it's pointing at to me. Anyway, let's see what Mr. Ballen does to that damn like button. But if this is his first time being here, then please hit like and subscribe. It supports me, it supports the channel. And don't forget to follow Mr. Ballen as well. Right, let's go. Like button.
Both of today's stories are about people who made big choices that they thought would improve their lives.
Okay.
But neither of them really took the time to actually learn exactly what they were signing up for.
That's just humans.
That led to disaster. But before we get into today's stories,
humans
if you're
for you,
a fan
that.
of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload 2, 3, even 4 times every week.
Right, come on.
So if that's of interest to you, please gift the like button a nice, brand new gumball machine. But don't tell them the gum is actually just painted balls of candle wax. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all
Gumballs
notifications
are shite anyway,
so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
To be honest,
okay,
I bet the candle balls would taste better. The candle wax balls would taste better than gumballs. Gumballs are shite, man. Dream car. Let's go.
At 8 a.m. on June 8th, 2015, 72-year-old James Lee Rogers parked his beautiful red Corvette in the parking lot of a Waffle House in Port Arthur, Texas.
Okay.
And as he pulled that car into the lot, I mean, James, he just felt so proud to be driving this vehicle. This was a 2007 C6 Chevy Corvette, pristine condition, and it was exactly the car that James had been dreaming about like his whole life.
It's not like the Corvettes you used to see in the 80s film that the A-Team used to have, like Faceman had, the big white one with the big slopey front and stuff and the lights that lifted up. That's obviously, that looks more Aston Martin-y or whatever, you know what I mean, or McLaren-y. It's nice, man. I
mean, it drove amazing, it looked incredible, and more than that, it had all these modern elements to it. I mean, it didn't even have regular door handles. Everything was like push buttons and electric.
Nice.
I mean, to him, owning this car was like owning a really flashy sports car. And he thought that, you know, anybody who saw him driving it, they knew this guy had made it. And on top of having this...
look at that posh... There's a lot of jealousy out there. When people are driving around in clapped out cars and they see someone in a car like that, they be calling them a... You know what I mean? I can't say them sort of words on here, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Really cool car. James also had like a pretty awesome life here in Port Arthur. I mean, he had lots of family in the area. He had grown up here, loved living here, but he also really loved this particular Waffle House. It was where he went basically every morning in his flashy car to get his coffee. But, you know, it wasn't just their coffee that he was drawn to. It was waffles. It was the wait staff. It was the regulars who went to this Waffle House. This had become like a sort of second home for him.
Yeah.
And he really looked forward to
social gathering
basically every day. And so he parks his Corvette, he gets out, and before he walks into the restaurant, he has to tell his dog, he had brought his dog along, Leia, this cute little dog, to stay in the car because the dog was not allowed in the Waffle House. You know, this was something he knew, but it was going to be quick. So
nice car like that. I wouldn't believe in a dog in it. Don't care what, if the dog was mild-mannered or anything. I would not believe in a dog in a car like that. I don't care what kind it is. You're just asking for it to rip your seats. You're asking for it to put its nose all over your windows and everything.
We told Leia, you know, to be a good girl and stay in the car. Don't rip it up. You know, this is his dream car.
It doesn't understand you, though.
She's a very good dog. And so she sat down. He shut the doors, you know, used the electric push buttons to do it. And then once he knew his dog was secure, into the restaurant he went. Once he got inside, James took his usual seat at the counter where his friend MJ was already sitting. MJ was in his 60s, and like James, he was also a fixture at this Waffle House.
Right.
And so the two immediately began chit-chatting about the weather and their kids. And then at some point, James ordered his coffee and used that as a chance to catch up with some of the wait staff that he spoke to every morning. And then eventually more regulars began filtering in and out, and James made a point to chat with them and laugh with them as well. I mean, again, this was like
social gathering.
Second home. And in fact, on this particular day, there were so many people that he wanted to talk to coming in and out of the restaurant that he decided, you know what, my dog's fine out there. You know, I've only been in here for a few minutes. I'm going to order some food as well. However, right after James ordered his food, he turned and he looked out the window into the parking lot. And even though he couldn't actually see his Corvette, he could see that it was extremely sunny and very hot outside.
Are we really going to have a Mr. Ballen video where it's the dog that dies? Dogs die in hot cars and all that shit. Are we really going to have a doggy death from heat exposure?
Bad. He could see that it was extremely sunny and very hot outside.
Uh-oh.
Like he knew that when he showed up, but I mean, he's looking out there and it just looks like a desert out there. It's so hot and like there's nobody out there. It's just cars getting blasted by the sun. And he's thinking like Leia's out there. And even though he had the AC on when he pulled up, and so, you know,
yeah, it's not going to last long.
His Corvette was still a little bit cool. There was no way that it was particularly comfortable in his car right now. And so before his food showed up, James turned to MJ and just said, "Hey, I'm going to be right back. You want to just like hold my seat? I'm going to go out and check on something." And MJ, who was kind of busy talking to other people, he's like, "Yeah, go ahead. I'll save your seat." And then James left the restaurant to go check on Leia. And so James, after leaving the Waffle House, he sort of ran around the corner out of view of where he had been sitting, and he went over to his beautiful dream car.
Yeah.
And as soon as he walked up to the window, he could see that Leia was, you know, very excited inside, happy to see James again. And, you know, just for good measure, even though he now knew his dog's okay, he climbed inside the driver's seat and shut the door, and he turned around and he pet his dog, and just, he could tell the temperature inside the car was not that bad. And so he was only going to be in the restaurant for another 15, 20 minutes tops. She'd be okay. However, after only having sat inside his car for a matter of maybe like 30 or 60 seconds, he felt himself getting really hot. I mean, it was definitely not cool inside the car.
Yeah.
The sun's burning through the windows.
Go and park it in the shade, man.
Like, you know what? This is not responsible to leave my dog in here. I can't do this. And so even though he had placed his order for food, he figured he could go in there, cancel the order. He was a regular. They'd understand. You know, he could have one more sip of coffee, but that was it.
You could go and park your car in the shade, because look at Waffle House here. Look at all the car parking spaces in front of that shop there, and there's like, it's in the shade. Just move your car to the shady bit. That's all you have to do, and put your windows down a tiny bit at the top of each one just to make sure.
Back out here and basically put the AC back on and get him and his dog back into the comforts of their own home. But when James pushed that super fancy button on his car door that he was sort of so proud of how modern his vehicle was, when he pushed it to open his door, nothing happened. And so James, like, he's just staring at the door in confusion because this has never happened before. And so he starts pushing it a few more times.
Has he left his keys on the counter and it's not engaging with the motor?
Again, nothing happened. And then after a few moments, when this car door was not budging, James reached across and started pushing the button on the passenger side door to see if maybe it was just an issue with, you know, his door. But no, that door wouldn't open either. And so finally, he decided he would just try to turn the car on to see if maybe that would help. But he couldn't get his car to turn on. The Corvette was completely dead.
Wow.
And James had no idea why. But he knew this was not good because, you know, this car, because it's so modern,
it's going to be an oven.
Didn't have normal handles. They really were all electric, all buttons. And so if these buttons aren't working and all the windows are up, like, what do? How do you get out? And so James, he's starting to stress out about, like, what's going to happen here? Like, is he going to have to break a window of his beloved vehicle here? Is that what he's going to have to do?
Yeah, you'd
and also, how crazy is that? How could he have wound up in this position? But also, the sun is just burning through the glass, and he's suddenly becoming really aware of just how hot it was getting inside his car.
He's going to get cooked in his car.
This is sort of becoming an emergency really quickly. I mean, because again, he can't even turn on the car, so he can't turn on the AC. He's like inside of an oven at this point. And so James instinctively reached for where his phone would normally be, but it wasn't there. And that's when he remembered he had left his phone inside the Waffle House.
Oh God, this is a comedy of errors, this, isn't it? Listen, right, if he dies in this car, this hot car, that's on him. Not for the fact that his car doesn't work. You break the window, right? You're going to have to break the window and you would. And a car window doesn't shatter so it's sharp. It shatters into little pieces, doesn't it? So you can smash it. You get covered in a bit of like shards that are just not sharp. Do you know what I mean? And you'd get out.
And that's when he remembered he had left his phone inside the Waffle House. When he had gone in earlier, it was low on charge and he had handed it off to one of the waitstaff to go plug in somewhere. And so his phone's inside. He has no way to contact anyone. But luckily, right at that point, James looked out the corner of his eye and he saw a couple walking out of the Waffle House. And he's like, oh, thank goodness. Someone's coming out. I can get their attention. They can come over here and get me out of here. Or at least, call someone who can. And so he starts waving, through the front windshield at this couple as they're sort of walking generally in his direction. But they clearly didn't see him. Like the sun is glaring off the glass, kind of making it hard to see inside. And so James is sort of realizing this, and he's becoming more and more desperate as he and his dog are getting more and more overheated. And so he began leaning on the horn to get their attention way, but no sound came out of his Corvette.
Car's dead.
The horn was powered by electricity, and again, the car is dead. And so James now is getting frantic. He's banging on the windows. He's screaming to them. But this is a nice car. It's totally soundproof inside. Again, there's the glare from the sun on the glass. The windows are partially tinted.
The price you pay for luxury is the price you pay for your posh car. Oh, look, I've got push button doors, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with them doors, is there? The ones that just pull and click, manual. Not wrong with them. This video is going to teach us that, isn't it?
But this is a nice car. It's totally soundproof inside. Again, there's the glare from the
I'll be
sun
smashing
and the
window,
glass.
I'm sorry.
The windows are partially tinted. They can't see or hear him. And so this couple eventually comes right near his vehicle. They climb in their car and they drive away without ever noticing it. Once they were gone, James told himself that, you know what, this is a busy area. Lots of people come in and out of this Waffle House. Someone's going to see us. Someone's going to get us out of this car.
Yeah, but if the push button's not working inside and the fact that it's dead so much that not even the horn works, then what's going to say that the outdoor button is going to work anyway? Because that'll be electric too, won't it? If the indoor's not working, the outdoor will be the same.
And so for the next several minutes, James looked all around him looking for anybody walking through this parking lot, looking for people coming out of the Waffle House. And anybody who came even close to his vehicle, he would scream and yell and bang and do anything he could to get their attention.
And they couldn't see him.
But nobody noticed him. Like no one could see or hear him.
Oh, wow.
Now, James and his dog were really starting to struggle with the heat inside of this vehicle. It really was like they were trapped inside of an oven. And so eventually, when it seemed like no one was going to notice them, James just began frantically looking around the interior of his car for a toolkit. He thought he had left a toolkit in here somewhere, in case of emergencies. And he's thinking, maybe there was a tool in there he could use to maybe jimmy open one of the doors, or if he had to, he could maybe use something heavy in the toolkit to break a window, just to get out that way.
You can punch a window through.
Eventually, in the back seat near Leia, he found this toolkit, but when he cracked it open,
he was
disappointed because it really didn't have anything that useful. There were some pliers, there were some jumper cables, and a flashlight.
Pliers, get them on the end like that, hold them like that, and crack the window till it smashes. You've got to do it.
James, he still took the pliers and he jammed the head of the pliers into the crack of the driver's side door to attempt to basically wrench open the door. But the pliers were very thin, and so he didn't budge the door at all. And he used a lot of energy trying to force the door open. And remember, it's like blisteringly hot inside of the vehicle at this point, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe.
To smash the window, man.
Like Leah's struggling to breathe. James is, drenched in sweat, and so he drops the pliers, and he just has this huge wave of anxiety come over him that, like, oh my goodness, like, is this it? Are we gonna die in here?
No, you smashed the window.
And so as like this crushing reality is coming down on him, James has this adrenaline surge, and he leans back in his seat and he starts kicking as hard as he can against the glass with his feet to try to break open the windshield or kick open the driver's side window. But amazingly, despite all of his energy going into this, he didn't crack the window at all. Like it felt like he was kicking a concrete wall. There was no budge, nothing. And so again,
maybe it's like it's toughened, triple toughened glass or something, with it being a car of that quality. Oh my God, this guy's he's gonna cook. He's gonna cook alive.
After exerting even more energy and now sweating even more, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe, James took those pliers and he's really gassed. He can barely breathe, and he starts smashing the head of the pliers into the window.
Yes.
That didn't do anything. So it's like, I can't do anything to get out of this vehicle. And so James, he sort of just like lays back in the driver's seat, which he had reclined at this point, and he's panting, he can barely breathe. He's opened up his shirt a little bit, and he's looking back at his dog, and she's really struggling, and he's just like, I can't believe this is happening. And as he's laying there, he sort of looks towards the front of the car, and his eyes land on the glove box in front of the passenger seat.
Right.
And it was like, oh my goodness, how could I forget? There's a manual inside of there. There has got to be instructions for what to do if your car dies. There's got to be a way to get out. Like, it's got to be in that manual. And so suddenly, having all this energy, James sat up, he opened up the glove box, and he pulled out this manual that he had never read before. I mean, he had no reason to, but he opened it up, and he began looking through it, looking for, the section that would explain what to do in case of, total power outage and you're stuck inside the vehicle. But like, as he's looking at the pages, like his vision's swimming, it's so hot. He's so tired, and it's all this little text. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages, and like nothing explained the situation. It was so not user-friendly. And so James, he's flipping through all these pages, and even just the act of turning the page was becoming so laborious. Like, he is just beginning to shut down. I mean, he's basically dying inside of an oven, and he can barely turn the page. And then before long, after about a quarter of the way through, it was like he couldn't see anymore, and he literally he couldn't turn the page anymore. He had no strength left.
Wow.
MJ, so James's buddy, the guy in his 60s who was also a regular at the Waffle House, he's inside the Waffle House. He's having his breakfast and his coffee. He knew James had stepped out. He was going to be right back, and he did not come right back. But he figured no big deal. Like, he probably got caught up with something. Maybe he forgot that he had ordered.
He's just got caught up with something. No shit. The guy's cooking inside of his car, and the guy's having his breakfast in the Waffle House. Come on, man. Go and rescue him.
Back, but he figured no big deal. Like, he probably got caught up with something. Maybe he forgot that he had ordered food. But, MJ, he's got all these reasons for why James has not come back to the restaurant. And also, MJ, being a regular, he's chatting it up with other people. He's not really even aware of the fact that James has not come back inside the Waffle House. And eventually, after MJ had his coffee and his food, he's getting ready to maybe make an exit himself when two employees come running in the front door of the Waffle House. And so everybody turns to these employees who clearly are sort of making a scene here, and they're like, what's going on? And the employees, they're like, we just saw James. He's asleep in his car, and we can't open the doors. We slammed on the windows, but he's not reacting. At this point, MJ felt sick to his stomach because he suddenly realized when he looked at his watch, it had been 4 hours since James had gone outside saying he'd be right back. Now, MJ, he got caught up doing other things, and he was in here all the time.
Hang on a minute. How would you spend 4 hours in a Waffle House? How do you spend 4 hours in a Waffle House? I mean, that's like breakfast and dinner, isn't it? I mean, I know you can talk to people, but Jesus Christ, 4 hours.
Now, MJ, he got caught up doing other things, and he was in here all the time. He loved being here. Time flew when he was in here. But even he, didn't understand how much time had passed.
Wow.
He's thinking, oh my gosh, what's happened to James? And so MJ jumps out of his seat, and he runs outside into the blistering heat. He goes around the corner to the red Corvette. He sees, through the tinted glass, there's James inside of the vehicle. He starts hitting on the window, but
no response.
There's no answer. James isn't moving. And so MJ calls 911. It would turn out when James bought the red Corvette, it really was like his dream car. He fell in love with it.
Also his
coffee. It was beautiful. It was flashy. It oozed status. It had all this new tech. It looked so expensive.
DVD player and everything.
It was perfect. And James, he didn't just, buy this car and that was it. After he had it, he obsessed over it. He learned every little detail about it.
Apart from how to open it when it was on a power outage. Fuck me.
He obsessed over it. He learned every little detail about it. He took great care of it. He drove it everywhere. This was like his child.
Yeah.
But despite, really obsessing over the car, he never learned one really important thing about this car, which is what do you do if you happen to be inside of the vehicle with the windows rolled up
Facts.
and your power goes out? because the doors are not regular doors. They're powered by buttons. They're electrical.
Yeah.
And if you have no power, you can't open them,
Nope.
as he found. Well, it turns out there's actually a lever under the driver's seat that once you pull it up, it pops open the driver's side door and you can get out, no matter if there's electricity or not.
I was not laughing at someone being dead. I'm really not. But Jesus Christ. There is a lever next to the driver's seat that you can open the car with. And he's supposed to know everything about it. Surely that is in the manual. It's gotta be. Jesus fucking Christ. Talk about unfortunate deaths. Deaths that could have been avoided. Oh my God. Well, to anyone else who's got a Corvette from 2007, take note.
It pops open the driver's side door and you can get out, no matter if there's electricity or not.
Manual release.
That information was buried on page 80 of that owner's manual that he had pulled out and begun flipping through, but he was so delirious from heat exhaustion.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He couldn't get that far into the manual. He's like combing through all this really dense text.
Hang on, don't all manuals have a table of contents? Do you know what I mean? And you just go to the electrical system, because it will tell you at you want to flick through as many pages. It'll say like page 80, electrical system, what to do if you obviously lock yourself in your car and you can't get out, sort of thing.
He made it about a quarter of the way through when unfortunately he
got to page 79.
And his dog Leia died from heat exhaustion.
Wow.
James's family filed a wrongful death case with Chevrolet, the maker of the Corvette, in 2018, but the case was dismissed.
Yeah, because
Chevrolet still makes Corvettes with these special electric doors, and there have been numerous additional incidents of people getting locked in and trapped.
Yeah,
but in more recent Corvette models, the manuals have the information about the door's release lever much closer to the front of the manual.
Yeah. They should make it a specialised section. I mean, you pay for your car, you pay for a lot of money to have all these luxuries and stuff. And the more stuff you have on a car, I've always said this, the more stuff you have on a car, the more there is to go wrong. Do you know what I mean? The less you have on a car, the less things there is to go wrong on it. And, you know, manual doors for the win. I mean, there is a manual release, as you know. But, I mean, surely, if it's right next to him on next to the seat and you can pull it, it's there. Surely he would have seen it. Mind you, if he's in a panic, I'm not sure. But then again, taking your dog out to Waffle House, letting him sit in the car. If he hadn't took the dog with him, he wouldn't have to go back to his car, would he? Do you know what I mean? So, oh, what an absolutely bizarre, weird death that was. Poor James. Right, okay, on to the next story. Have a drink. A call to arms. Let's go.
On the morning of August 20th, 1862, 17...
How long ago? Were cars invented then? There'd have been no Corvettes back then, would there?
On the morning of August 20th, 1862, a 17-year-old farmhand named Jean Leroux carried his axe over to a stack of logs by a barn on a farm in Ottawa Township, Minnesota. Okay. As a farmhand, Jean was responsible for lots of different odd jobs, like splitting the firewood and feeding the animals and helping with the crops. Basically, Jean had to know every single inch of the farm and the woods that surrounded it and how to take care of it all.
Yeah.
But even though he was basically constantly busy, Jean still found his mind wandering to a place that was sort of difficult, which was he felt a lot of times pretty homesick. So Jean was actually from France, and he had left behind his whole family and his, previous life to come here to America, where there was supposed to be more opportunity. However, America was turning out to be a pretty violent place. The country was currently fighting the Civil War. And on top of that, the area specifically where Jean lived was pretty much like the frontier. And so there were these constant territorial disputes and virtually no law enforcement. So just a really dangerous place. But more than any dangers he faced, Jean just really missed his family, especially his mom. So he spent basically every spare minute he had, which was, few and far between, sitting out in the woods by this one particular just huge, beautiful oak tree. And he would sit at the base of it and he would make journal entries about basically everything he was doing so he could track it all and know what to tell his mom when he finally got to see her.
Okay.
He just wanted to tell her all about his experience. Also, just for context, Jean had saved virtually all the money he had worked so hard to acquire, and his whole plan was to eventually send that money to his mother, who he loved so very much and missed so much.
Right.
But more and more, like the more homesick he became, the more he wished he could actually just go back to France and get out of America and literally hand the money to his mom and just see her again and be done with this whole America experiment. But for now, Jean raised his axe over his head and he brought it down on the log that he was going to split. And it did, it split open, and he raised the axe again to chop another log. But as he did, he froze because off in the distance, he could hear a series of repetitive booming noises, really loud.
Shooting.
And for Jean, I mean, immediately his heart started to race and he was so scared because he knew what those were. I mean, those were gunshots. And he was terrified that the thing that he and really everybody else in his town had been scared of for days was now finally happening. So right on the other side of the woods that surrounded the farm was the Minnesota River.
Right.
And over the last decade, lots of people had settled along this river. And there'd been a town established right nearby, and new homes were being built constantly. However, all the expansion had literally forced out the indigenous tribe who had previously lived in the area, the Sioux. And after being displaced...
is this going back to the days when people were getting rid of like Indian heritage and like the white people, as they say, took over and forced them out and killed them and stuff? Is that we're going back? Is 1862? Is that what time it was? So I think I've not got a clue about that sort of history. I've heard like bits and pieces in certain documentaries and stuff, but I mean timestamps and that I don't know. Is that something to do with this?
Who had previously lived in the area, the Sioux. And after being displaced, these Sioux had struggled to find food and a place to live, while the settlers just continued to expand and take more of their land.
Yeah.
So finally, just 2 days earlier, the Sioux had had enough and they finally retaliated,
right,
attacking settlements along that river. It was being called the Sioux Uprising, and the attacks so far had been horrific. A lot of farms along that river had been burned to the ground and their occupants had been killed right alongside it.
Shit.
And then just yesterday, the Sioux had attacked a city that was just 50 miles down the river from where Jean was right now.
Oh, God.
And so Jean and everybody else in this particular area had really been terrified the last 24 hours that the violence was moving in their direction towards Ottawa Township. And so now Jean, he had put his axe down and he just stood there, trembling as the sound of gunshots continued.
That's close if you can hear him.
Just a few stray bullets. This was a barrage of gunfire. And so this could only mean one thing. The Sioux were here. Now, Jean couldn't tell exactly where the shooting was coming from, but he could tell it was pretty close. And so Jean knew that he likely only had maybe several minutes to gather up whatever he could of his possessions and get to safety before the Sioux arrived. So Jean, he bolts over to the farmhouse, goes inside, and he goes to the area inside where he slept, and he grabbed his rifle, and he also grabbed his notebook and all that cash he'd been saving for his mom. And he jammed the notebook and the cash into a satchel, and with his rifle over his shoulder, he ran back outside. And then once he was outside, he sprinted right towards the tree line at the edge of the property. And after running for a little while, Jean finally stopped to catch his breath and to listen to see if there was more gunfire. And as he sat there listening, he couldn't hear anything. But that's when he realized, he's all alone out here. If the Sioux came charging through the trees right now, he wouldn't stand a chance even with his rifle. But Jean had an advantage. He knew these woods like the back of his hand. He was in here all the time. And because of that, he knew exactly where to go to find safety.
It's like Rambo. Rambo knows the woods. Rambo can live off the land, etc. You've got like an 1862 Rambo going on here.
And because of that, he knew exactly where to go to find safety. About an hour later, Jean's boss and the owner of the farm, Edward Gleek, hustled from his farmhouse towards town. Mr. Gleek had also heard the gunshots. Basically everybody in town had. And he had come running out of the barn just in time to see his farmhand, Jean Leroux, bolting off into the woods. And, Mr. Gleek, he didn't blame the kid.
No.
He was also horrified by the recent attacks and was also very worried that those shots they were hearing were a sign that trouble had finally arrived in their town. But after all these gunshots, no Sioux warriors showed up in town. And so now Mr. Gleek was heading to the town center to see what had actually happened. Like, what were those gunshots? Now, Mr. Gleek had sort of accepted that this could have been something totally benign, or it could have been the Sioux. He didn't know.
Yeah.
But he was just going to find out. He was rational. He was calm, despite, the risks here. But when he got into the town center,
everyone's leaving.
All he could see was just chaos.
Wow.
Many of the area's residents were out running around, carrying trunks and bags and all their belongings, like they were fleeing the area, much like Mr. Gleek's farmhand, Jean Leroux, had looked like he was doing. However, it didn't take long for Mr. Gleek to hear what had happened, and it was not an attack by the Sioux. Those people running around like maniacs, fleeing the area.
Go on then, Mr.
They just
Ballen.
hadn't heard the real story yet. They were sort of operating like there was an attack coming. So
because they're all basing it on an assumption. But I suppose if that thing had been happening anyway, then you're going to assume that that's going to be the next thing. Because if you're hearing gunshots near to your town, you'd be thinking, right, do we stay or do we go? Chances are they're going to come in here and they're going to just kill us all. You know what I mean? And set all our businesses on fire like they have been doing down the river. So, the rational thing, it's not irrational to get onto your horses or legging it out of town, is it? You know what I mean?
The real story yet. They were sort of operating like there was an attack coming.
Yeah.
So apparently a group of American soldiers had been riding on a boat up the Minnesota River, and for some reason they just gotten overly excited and began firing their guns repeatedly. So those were gunshots. And unfortunately, because they were gunshots, they completely freaked out all the residents around the river because of this growing threat of the Sioux attacking. But fortunately, at least in this case, there were no attacks. This was just, an unfortunate event. And so after hearing this, Mr. Gleek went back to his farm to find Jean and tell him that, everything was actually just fine. But when he got there, Jean still had not come back yet. And when Mr. Gleek went into the woods to go look around for him, he couldn't find him. Now, Mr. Gleek figured that Jean would eventually find out what happened, much like everybody else in town.
Yeah.
Not everyone had the news yet. And so at some point that day, he was bound to return. But by the time night fell, Jean still had not come back. And then the next day, Jean didn't come back. And the next day, and the next day, he just didn't come back. And so finally, after repeatedly searching his property and asking all over town if anybody had seen Jean, Mr. Gleek finally came to the conclusion that Jean must have fled because of this Sioux attack.
Yeah.
And then likely gone back to France to be with his mother, something he knew he wanted
Another
to do
assumption.
anyways. Maybe this was his excuse. 57 years later, on a morning in July of 1919, Mr. Gleek sat on his porch looking out over his farm, the same farm that Jean had been a farmhand for 57 years earlier.
Right.
Mr. Gleek was old now, and so he could no longer actually physically work on the farm himself. So instead, he had to hire entire crews to do various jobs. And in fact, right now, he had a whole bunch of workers out in the woods clearing away some dead brush for him. And so as Mr. Gleek is just kind of surveying his property, he notices a worker come running out of the tree line and starts waving at Mr. Gleek really frantically, like he had something really important to say. And then
You found
as
the body
man
of
got closer,
bloody Jean.
Mr. Gleek could see that this worker looked terrified. And before Mr. Gleek could ask what had happened, the worker, whose face was, white as a ghost, said Mr. Gleek needed to come and see something. And so Mr. Gleek, who was, very intrigued at this point, managed to haul himself up and he slowly hobbled off into the woods with this worker. And as he got to where the rest of the crew was, inside the forest, he saw that they were all mostly gathered around this very large, recently downed oak tree. And the whole group was very quiet.
Kind of
and
ironic
tense,
it's an oak tree.
And they were all just staring at a section of this tree that had split open. When Mr. Gleek joined the group and looked at this particular section of the trunk of this tree, this hollow part, at first he didn't even know what he was staring at. It was just this hollowed out sort of split section of the tree, and there was a few items that didn't belong there that were inside of it, like a cache of sorts. But then he sort of fixated on one particular item, and that's when he understood why the group was just so stunned. And as he stared and sort of took in what he was seeing, he suddenly became utterly horrified. It would turn out, when Jean ran off into the woods 57 years earlier, he used his intimate knowledge of the farmland and the surrounding woods to escape what he thought was a very dangerous situation. And he did that by hiding. Jean knew that that oak tree where he would always go when he would write in his notebook happened to have a hollow trunk. And he figured he'd be just the right size to crawl inside of there and stay in there hidden until the Sioux were gone.
Right.
And so Jean had made it to the tree and he had wedged himself inside of there totally out of view. And then unfortunately, he got stuck.
Oh,
from inside the trunk of the tree, Jean had managed to write one last letter to Mr. Gleek, saying that he couldn't get out, he was stuck, and if he did die here, to please give all his money to his mother in France. And so
not in
decades
57 years later,
when Mr. Gleek's workers cut that big oak tree down, what they found inside of the hollow trunk was Jean's gun, his money, his notebook, and his mummified body.
Oh, wow. That's like a nutty putty thing, isn't it? Obviously, he's not going into a cave.
Thank you so much.
He's gone right under the tree and got stuck and wedged himself. That's claustrophobia. Just waiting to die, lying there, isn't it? Oh my God, that makes me feel like I want to go outside. Like I say, every time there's one of these claustrophobic ones where someone gets stuck and dies, it makes me want to go outside so that I know there's plenty of things around me. Two very, very different stories. One tragic for the simple fact that the guy has splashed the cash on the car and didn't know everything about it, even though we claim to know everything about it. I mean, surely with electric buttons there's going to be some sort of release. You would have thought, wouldn't you? And it turns out there was. And the second guy run away from some people shooting guns off a ship. It wasn't even the Indians coming get him. You know what I mean? It was fucking. Some people, man. Some people die in very, very bizarre fashions. And if it weren't for these Mr. Ballen videos, I'd never know these. So that's where you guys should come in and follow Mr. Ballen, because the guy is an absolutely exceptional storyteller. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to check out his original video, and I'll see you next time.